Hello, everyone. Respected Director, Mr. Abdul Rasid Jokio, SAARC Energy Center, expert of the session, Mr. Mohammad Amjad from Pakistan, distinguished participants from SAARC member states and all around the globe. Fellow colleagues from SAARC Energy Center, good morning. Welcome to the webinar on realizing potential of emission trading schemes for energy projects in South Asian region. Thank you very much for joining us today in this webinar. My name is Kiran Gautam. I am working as a program leader here at SAARC Energy Center. And previously, I was with Government of Nepal as a senior divisional engineer. I shall be moderating today's webinar. The aim of this is to discuss on the importance and benefits of adopting emission trading schemes, market mechanism of ETS, with the successful case studies and the regional pathways. Let me briefly explain about today's session. So unfortunately, today our director is busy in a meeting, so he will not be here. So we will have a presentation from our expert, Mr. Amjad, followed by Q&A session. Please feel free to send in your questions at any time during the presentations. We will address those during the Q&A session after the presentation. With this, now we would like to start the presentation. Before that, let me introduce our presenter, Mr. Mohammad Amjad. He is a senior scientific officer at the Global Climate Change Impact Studies Center here in Islamabad with over 20 years of experience in climate change studies under GHG inventory development. A UNFCCC certified GHG expert, he has contributed extensively to Pakistan's national climate policy, including the National Carbon Market Framework and Pakistan's NDCs. He is currently a lead author for the 2027 IPCC methodology report on salt-lake climate forces and has deep expertise in emission modeling, carbon market frameworks, and integrated assessment tools such as leak, gains, and meshes. They are directly designed and implemented for emission trading schemes. So, Mr. Mohammad, sir, now the session is yours. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kiran. Could you please share my screen? Could you please confirm it?
Yes, sir. It's shared, but it's not in the full presentation mode. So please wait in the full presentation mode. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. So today I'll present on realizing a potential of emission trading scheme for energy projects in South Asia region. So my name is Mohammad Amjad. I'm serving as Senior Scientific Officer at the Global Climate Change Impact Studies Center, which is the technical arm of Ministry of Climate Change and Environmental Coordination here in Islamabad, Pakistan. So, we will explore how this market-based instrument can be game changer for our region. So, for some help, I have also requested Miss Shenli Zhu. She's an economist with 19 years of experience at UNEP Copenhagen Climate Center. So, where she is specialized in carbon market, MRV system. So from 2022 to 2025, she was also helping Pakistan in development of carbon market readiness related projects in Pakistan as well. So I just invited her in this webinar as well. So if you have, we can cover all range of questions related to EU or from other part of the world where we can. So she will also be facilitating us. I'm very thankful that she is joining here. So, so To structure our presentation, so I have structured it in following manner. So first we will discuss importance and benefit of emission trading schemes. What are the potential of ETS for our region? What are the methodologies, strategies, and procedure for implementing ETS? So, and where it is, for example, in European Union, ETS is already working since 2005. So it's one of the largest emission trading scheme. So we can also take some examples from there as well. And as EU is cooperating under this mechanism, so we will discuss if how South Asia can cooperate under the similar kind of situation or under similar instrument. In addition to that, we have a carbon border adjustment mechanism. So, which is one of the key instruments for those countries who are exporting their goods to, particularly to EU. So they have announced this carbon border adjustment mechanism as well. So yeah, this is the overview of the presentation. So we will be discussing mainly on these 6 points. So to proceed, let's go to the first part of the presentation. So why carbon market for climate action? We all know that our development path, which is quite fossil intensive or emission intensive. So this path, our economic growth pattern, is full of externalities. We have environmental cost over it, and to meet these requirements, we have to do some regulations. We have to develop some policies, or instead of developing in a similar manner, we have to think something out of box so that our development pattern can be changed or it will be more sustainable. So instead of investing more and more in a dirty kind of or unsustainable growth, we should develop some instrument so that our growth pattern can be more sustainable. So one of that path is the carbon pricing mechanism, or what we can say carbon market or emission trading scheme. They all are same. So a market-based approach to control the pollution by providing some economic incentives. At this stage, it is more easier and more acceptable, and technologies are available everywhere. And they can facilitate more on the investment, particularly for the developing countries, which are more like emission intensive. But to make the renewables and other decarbonization of these different industries and markets, so we have to make them competitive with this fossil incentive market. So to make them competitive, we have to give, or governments have to give some edge or give some facilitation, or they have to tax, or they have to trade emissions. so that the renewable part or the path which is more sustainable can be come on equal footing. So it could become competitive. And for that, the core principle is to put some cap. So by cap, I mean there should be, if a particular sector have 100 million ton of CO2 emission, but if the government decide it should be 50 million ton of CO2 emission, so that means they have put a cap on it of 50 million ton of CO2 equivalent. So industries in that sector have to meet this target and bring their emissions 50% lower. And for that, I will explain more on this. So with some examples in the coming slide. So why we are going towards this? We all know that under Paris Agreement, there's some targets to achieve net zero. So if we go towards the IPCC report on special report on 1.5 degree, so that says that our emission, the world emission should go by half by 2030, and it should achieve net zero by 2050 to achieve the Paris Agreement goal, which is to stay well below to achieve the goal of well below 2 degrees centigrade of global average temperature. So, but by every passing year, this target is becoming more difficult. But still, even now, we have a 50-50 chance that we can achieve 1.5 degree goal, temperature goal. But we have a kind of for well below 2 degrees centigrade, the chance is around 66%. So this is from IPCC. The key benefits for adopting ETS, they are threefold. Why we are want to achieve these? So first, there's some environmental goals. So where we can see uh, emissions reduction through cap, as I mentioned before. It can be helpful in driving cleaner technologies and cost-effective path for climate goals. So, for example, if you get some credit through ETS, so it will become more cost-effective, and uh, there will be new innovations for that. So, what will be the economic benefit for that? So, through this emission trading schemes, we can generate revenue for particular industry, and with that revenue we can invest more for the cleaner technologies, and it can help job creation, uh, and that jobs are more greener, incentivize energy efficiency investments. So flexibility for the companies on the policy side, uh, because if you have a market you, and if you have a regional market, so companies can buy credits which are cheaper for them, and there's a transparent based mechanism compatible with the international uh, cooperation. So it can help our region or a country to to make their things competitive with the international market, and it can be more acceptable in the other parts of the world. So the second part of the presentation on the emission trading scheme potential in South Asian energy projects. So as I mentioned before, this carbon markets or emission trading schemes can accelerate clean energy transition while supporting economic growth. So current situation is that Asia is one of the largest consumer of coal. We consume 53% of world coal in Asian region. Uh, I think around 25% of oil consumption uh, is in our region in Asian continent. So we have quite heavily reliance on fossil fuel. So it could be challenging for countries in this region because they have their development right. They have to protect their development right as well. And going towards new technologies and inventing new paths for development, uh, it is challenging, but there lies more opportunities in the form of environment as well as economics. So, for example, India 70% electricity generation is formed by fossil fuel consumption. Pakistan also relies heavily on natural gas, oil, and coal. Coal. Bangladesh also uh, is a gas-based economy transitioning with their development. So, but the renewable part, as it's coming every passing year, it is becoming more competitive. There's a solar rush in Pakistan as well. So, for example, here, uh, as according to few experts here, uh, around 70 gigawatt capacity solar has already been installed in Pakistan. So that means around 70 plants that is equivalent to, but we know that there is some intermittence in the renewables. It can also only function in daytime. So we have to invest more on the storage or on other side to keep uh, the energy available for 24/7. So energy efficiency improvement needs are also there because uh, some industrial emission reduction opportunities, uh, and then methane capture in agriculture and waste sectors. Uh, there are these are the opportunities. If we can capture that emission and use it for energy generation, that is more beneficial and it is more sustainable. And it will not have environmental externalities. For example, uh, this region is having lot of pollution problems in winter particularly. So air quality index, we all know that it's increasing with every passing year. So ETS has application in power generation. So, for example, uh, if a country want to replace their coal power plant to renewable, invest in 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 the renewable, or they want to upgrade or retire their coal power plant. So carbon emission trading scheme can be very beneficial. Similarly, there's a high use of energy in the our industrial sector. So that covers cement, steel, chemical, textile, particularly in our region. So these industries are quite common and they are fossil intensive as well. So as EU has already um, based on different kind of instruments, so they have transitions. And if we go there, we can feel a very good air quality. And this is just because of their implementing those kind of instruments in their on their industries and getting the results in different farms. And and now they are also uh, under different instruments, so they are also helping other countries or inventing kind of new instruments for for the those countries who are exporting their goods to EU. Renewable energy development, carbon pricing improve economics of solar, wind, hydro projects. So can generate offset credit of uh, provide additional revenue. For example, if you so save some emission under few projects by developing few projects for your industry, for your demand. So and you can just sell those credits in the carbon market, and you can earn some revenue. So same is the case through energy efficiency. If you make your uh, industrial boilers more efficient and save some uh, emissions from there, so you can definitely sell in the in carbon market. Uh, just emission trading is kind of same. So what I'm saying is we can see how it can become possible. So what are the methodologies? What are the strategies? How we can achieve it? So for that purpose, in this part of the presentation, so we will discuss mainly upon key steps of designing ETS. Because designing ETS for our region is right now it is an opportunity, but at the same time it is a challenge as well. So because our economic growth or industrial growth is unchecked over the years, and we don't know how they remain developing in the past and what is their future trajectories, and how we can put a cap on particular industry, on particular sector. So first, we have to analyze their historic growth and determine how this growing, what is the pattern, how emissions are rising, what particular component is more emission intensive. So how we can reduce those emissions. So we need we need to study industry by industry, sector by sector, uh, to find out to put a cap on particular industry. So uh, instead of just uh, doing something, it can definitely uh, can uh, can definitely uh, put a wrong decision can change the industrial growth. It can be harmful for them. As a result, the industry may move to another country or another region for their development. So it may have cost if we didn't study them and put some cap on particular sector. So define scope and coverage. As I said, identify sector, gases, there are different gases. For example, few industries and few sectors, they may be carbon dioxide intensive. For example, our power generation from fossil fuel, they are carbon dioxide emission incentive. Our waste sector is methane intensive. Methane erupt from the waste sector. Our agriculture sector is also nitrous oxide and methane intensive. In addition to that, there are fluorinated gases, other fluorinated gases. So what we want to do, what will be the coverage of that particular instrument under ETS? And this is how we can, by saving those gases, we can generate some quality credits. Allocation methods. Choose between free allocation, grandfathering or benchmarking, and auction of the allowances. So grandfathering is something, for example, you have some existing fleet of coal power plant in your country, and you have to study them all. What is there? What you need actually? How to? What is there you need for them for the base load? Because if you decide overnight that tomorrow there will be no coal power generation, so this is not possible. There will be blackout in a region, in a country, or so to so we have to go step by step. For example, just EU ETS, they have started since 2005 and they are developing in different phases. So each country, each region have to go from there. And then benchmarking, for example, what kind of emissions they have, what kind of efficiencies they are operating, how we can enhance their efficiency over a period, how we can develop some phases on them that we can ask or we can go towards upgrading the industry. And then auctioning the allowances. So what how they say from this exercise. So we have to give some credits, to give some allowances. MRV is the main and one of the, you can say, important aspect of any emission trading scheme. Because without proper data, without proper monitoring, reporting, and third-party verification, you can any emission trading scheme cannot work properly. If something happen incorrectly, so there will be greenwashing or leakage of the emissions, so improper mean credits or low quality credits have no benefit, and it can create a bad reputation for any country, for any industry. So one of the very important aspect of doing it, the emission trading scheme, is the MRV system. The robust MRV system mean you have a better credits, better reputation, and more sustainable, you can say, uh, approach of saving emission. So for an industry, their reputation is very important. So this is for emission trading scheme for any industry or for any country. MRV system is the main thing. So compliance and enforcement. So we have to set some penalties for the non-compliance. For example, if our industry short of their savings on emissions, so there's some heavy fines on them, and it make them uncompetitive in the market. So for that purpose, industry have to comply their emission. And in addition to that, there is some a platform for a registry of record, for example, over the period of time, how many industries are creating saving emission. Every year we have to record them and make a registry of their credits. It can easy to it's kind just kind of a ledger in the economic study in the banking sector. So the on the right side there is uh, just a visual example. For example, there is industry A and industry B. Industry A has some surplus of they have saved more. Uh, they have saved more emission than they were supposed to in that particular area. And industry B is on has shortage. They are they cannot meet that. They couldn't able to meet the target on that year. So now they have a couple of options with them. Either now industry A can sell those surplus amount of credits to industry B, or industry A can save those, bank those uh, credits with themselves and make them use them in coming years. So then industry B have to go to buy some credits from another region. So in this particular case, so the industry B is paying some euros or some amount to industry A and buying that credit to meet the target. So this is how uh, it in this particular case. So industry A is getting some revenue through auctioning those credits, and industry B is uh, uh, giving taking those credits, buying those credits, and giving some amount to industry A. So this is how the market works through auctioning of and then trading in that. So as I mentioned before, this is uh, grandfathering. How, how is the free allocation? What's the benchmarking? As I mentioned before, free allocation is you cannot in reality you cannot uh, remove your emission or get rid of those emissions overnight. So you have to go it step by step. So, for example, in carbon border adjustment mechanism, they have allowed that in 2026, every exporting good to EU, they have to get some certificate of 2.3 to 5% of those emissions and the amended emission in that good. Then in 2027, they have increased their emission. And then until 2034, they are saying that every importing good to EU, they should have a certificate of emission saving by 100% of their emission. So, so if EU have set a cap uh, on that particular year, so any emission above that cap, that company have to pay the extra amount of those emissions. So one credit mean 1 ton of CO2 equivalent. So if please let me know if you are not familiar with the equivalent. So this CO2 equivalent means uh, you have to uh, different gases have different global warming potential. To make them equivalent, so you have to multiply with that warming potential and add up with the CO2. So, for example, methane has 21 global warming potential. So whatever uh, X amount of methane generation from particular sector, so we have to multiply it by 20 with 21 and add up to with other gas, so it become equivalent to carbon dioxide. So this is how it works. So, for example, 1 ton of methane mean 21 ton of CO2 equivalent. In other words, and similarly for nitrous oxide, this is 271, and for the fluorinated gases, it is even more. So free allocation mean on that particular year they have put some cap, and rest is there is some other is free, and based on those benchmarking and grandfathering, as I explained before. So we do grandfathering based on historical emissions uh, and what is uh, we really need, how we cannot avoid over that particular period, and then benchmarking what is the best available technology and reward to to make them more energy efficient. This help us in preventing the carbon leakage in the phase out period and trade exposed sectors. Most systems are hybrid approach, gradual shift from uh, free to optional. So by market mechanism, this means that companies uh, have to purchase in a market. So if, for example, if you go to a market, so what you will do, you will try to find the best price. So similarly, in the market, every you have to sell your credits. So sometimes if the price is higher, sometimes it's lower. So, but now over the period of time, it has been seen that the price of the credit is increasing, particularly uh, in the compliance market, and as well as it's increasing in the voluntary market as well. So right now there is, I think, 82 euros per ton of CO2 equivalent, uh, one credit of uh, allowance or one allowance or one credit equivalent to that. So this has particular advantage for will generate if if a industry is not complying, it will definitely generate some revenue. So it is polluter pays principle, transparent price mechanism. So this is how the government can invest more based on that revenue on the more cleaner technologies, which or create some enabling environment by doing certain things, and this will become more popular and or more efficient and more sustainable things will proceed in the market in a proper in the phase out in the transition time as well. As I mentioned before, this MRV system is the backbone of any ETS. So continuous tracking of emission, direct measurement or calculation method, standardized protocol, quality assurance procedures. Continuous tracking mean that every year we should have a time series for the emission, for the total emission, for the sectoral emission, and for the industry-wise emission. And then direct measurement and calculation methods uh, there, because this has some tier approach. Tier one has some, initially we may be using some default emission factors, and then we can have their own industry specific, sector specific uh, emission factors, so that we have better estimation, and use standardized methods and protocols to calculate emission. We all know there are different procedures. There are guidelines available. There are goals, GCC and other guidelines available. So using that guidelines, we have to, which are globally acceptable, and standardized techniques to measure the emission. So we have to use it, and then make some quality assurance techniques with the data. We have to see what we should not be double counting the emission, and there should be nothing left, or nor we should have to double count the emission. So the reporting annual emission, standardized formats are there, transparent documentation is there. So electronic registry submission is also there. So these are now state of the art techniques to report the emissions. So for example, to UNFCCC, there are different formats, and with the registry, and they have some. UNFCCC is also creating a registry, and it will be linked with the national registries for the ITMOs. For example, whatever you generate here, and it will be transferred to another country, so it will be taking all balance sheet should be there. So for example, Nepal is selling few credits which they have saved from clean cooking, by adopting clean cooking cook stoves in the household. And some other country, Y country, has bought those credits. So now Nepal cannot, the savings will be gone towards that country emission reduction targets. It should not be discounted from both countries. So it will only go to the buyer side. On the verification part, because MRV, the last V is on the verification. So verification is the third party audits. So there are some accredited experts, verifiers who come on site and check and give the certification that. So there are few organizations in the world, they are already doing this certification. They have experts with them. They are accredited, verified with them. So they are doing it for the to generate the carbon credits. So these are all quite mandatory. This is challenging but rewarding, actions should be there. This MRV process is backbone of any ETS, so it should be properly placed. So if a country need to establish some rules and regulation, it should be there. Market mechanism and EU ETS case studies. Because as I mentioned in the beginning, that ETS is the largest, EU ETS is the largest scheme in the world, and that is operationalized since 2005. So let's see what they are doing and how it's operating. So world's largest carbon market is the EU ETS, and it was launched in 2005, and now it's in fourth phase. So there was some phases in this. For example, 2005 to 2007, then 2008 to 2013, and then 13 to 2020, and now the fourth phase is 2021 to 2030. So it covers 27 European Union countries plus some couple of more countries, which include Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway. 10,000 installations are regulated. That means the if a company have, it starts from 10,000 credits. You have to have at least 10,000 credits to go to the market, and it covers 40% of EU greenhouse gases, which is around 1.28 trillion tons of CO2 equivalent. And the cap reduced annually this emission through this emission trading scheme. EU is saving 2.2% of their emission annually. And so if we count from 2005 until 2025, so they have saved 35% of their emissions through ETS. So that means that it is quite effective tool. This is a market-based mechanism, and it is helpful for that. So by market-based mechanism means a public fund or public money for is not sufficient to meet the climate goal. So what countries are doing? They have developed an instrument of the ETS or emission trading scheme. So in this way, the private finance is also coming in this cycle, and it helps to meet the carbon to meet the our climate goal. So this is a strategy to move private finance to meet the climate goal. So it covers, because as I mentioned before, that when you put some cap in one country on a particular industry, so they generally what they do is they move from one region to another, they establish their industries. So, but EU ETS was mainly covering the power sector because it is challenging for power sector to move somewhere else. So in the beginning, they were only focusing on the power sector. Then later on, they have also decided energy intensive industries, for example, cement, steel, refineries, and chemical industry. Commercial aviation within EU, they are covering it, and now they are also covering maritime emission. But this is just in EU. EU ETS means they are only operating in these 27 countries and plus few more countries. So they are not allowed to operate elsewhere. However, if other countries develop the carbon market standard as equivalent uh, to EU regions, so they can apply. And for example, these few countries are already included in ETS, EU ETS, so they can maybe there's some procedure that they can, if a country adopts similar kind of emission trading mechanism in their own country, so they can be included in EU ETS. However, their preference until now remain over the period of so many years. So their preference remain on the EU side. So the EU-based nations, they are uh, trading emission with each other. So, but why it is important for us as well? So So I will explain in future in the coming slides that why because they are also have uh, instrumented CBAM. Other countries may also be doing similar kind of mechanism. So for that purpose, the countries in South Asia region, they have to develop their own carbon market related rules and regulations, because we have to, I mean, if we want to go with the word, so it is necessary to take that measures. For example, Pakistan has already developed carbon market guidelines, and now the rules are in the finalization process. So, so this is which is a key step to create the mission. One thing I should clarify here, either I should have clarified before, that there are two kind of markets. One is the voluntary carbon market, and one is on the compliance market. The emission trading scheme is all about compliance market. That means you can governments in compliance market. That means that there should be someone who can put some cap on particular sector, and everyone have to follow it. So normally it is our governments, so they put cap on particular sector, and then uh, uh, it uh, it functions, and every industry have to abide by those laws and regulations, and they can sell those credit in the international market or to another government. So this is through Article 6.2, and procedure is somewhere they are overlapping. So this all kind of mechanism should be placed in a particular country, and then will be operating. So the voluntary carbon market is, you don't need these rules. So if our industry have surplus amount of credit, so they can sell them voluntarily, and other industries, they can buy it for their reputation and other purpose. So ETS is all about the compliance market. So EU ETS market works. Uh, these are, I think, reputation. We have to set a cap. So, for example, EU, they have set a total number of emission allowances available each year. One allowance equal to 1 ton of CO2. So this is CO2 means CO2 equivalent. Allocation and auctioning, 57% of allowances auction, 43% free allocation to prevent carbon leakage. As I mentioned before, we cannot do it overnight, so it is a gradual process. So there are some free allocation, and then slowly with each passing phase, they are increasing their ambition. The trading companies trade allowances on exchange, and those that reduce emission can sell excess. High emitter must pay by more, yeah, to comply it. Otherwise, they will be under the compliance. They will be having heavy fines. So a penalty for not abiding 1 ton of CO2 equivalent target is, per ton they have to pay 100 euros. So this is quite a current situation. So price discovery is the market based bit. So there's no, I mean, you can say there's no other restriction is there. So it is just market decide how it goes. But the problem is for our region, because the price of the credit is increasing over the period. So it was 30 euros per ton sometime before, but now it is around 82 euros as of now. So that means that the increasing price mean that each industry in other part of the world they have to they cannot go with their schedule path, so they have to invest more on the cleaner side. So they have to remove the embedded emission in their goods. So two different kind of techniques. So what are the lessons we learned from the EU ETS? So as I mentioned before, they have already achieved 35% of reduced their emission by 35% from 2005 until now. So that means the reduction uh, it works. If some country decide to establish uh, EU ETS kind of mechanism in their own country, so they can, or in our region. Mean by that, I mean, for EU is a multi combination of multiple states. So for our region, if we can work and if they are working together, and why we can work together. So uh, if we can develop our regional ETS, through regional ETS, we can cooperate with each other and sell the credits. So accelerated coal uh, to gas switching and renewables. So this has happened in EU. So generated 175 billion euros in auction revenue. So that means that companies has did business of 175 billion euros in this period. They have established strong MRV system to ensure compliance because there's check and balance procedure is quite just strict. So can say that and they have to pay some fines if some industry is not compliant with the rules. So that has already established and it is getting benefit, created liquid carbon trading markets. So it is ongoing process and also demonstrated the political feasibility is there. We have seen in European region there are green parties politically because their population is well educated and they know what it costs. They know familiar with the externalities. They have some stories, and it builds their motivation to go uh, on the decarbonized path. So challenging and adjustments. Initial over allocation led to low price. So because as I mentioned before, we have to go it steadily as EU has went through. The market stability reserve added to manage the surplus. Reallocation created windfall profit. So if you go gradually, so then industry will slowly adapt those things instead of moving to other part of the world or other region. So that means you have to make it adapted. Or carbon leakages concern or greenwashing require careful design of rules and regulation. Fraud incident and required better oversight. This is all about MRV as I mentioned. Coordination across 30 countries is complex. And, yeah. Regional cooperation pathways for South Asia. So this is what we have learned from EU ETS. So let's see how we can develop for South Asia region. some countries, for example, India and Pakistan, they have already developed some rules. Few are already selling their credits, but they are selling it in the voluntary carbon market. For the ETS, we have to establish some rules and regulation in our own country and then make it connected, and those ETS is joint, so it can be a regional approach for that. So regional create deeper liquidity. It will be more selling and buying, more stable price, and attract international capital as well. So as I mentioned in the beginning, so because world has adopted it already, EU, North America, they have already adapted it, and to go with the world, we have to also establish similar rules so that we have an international uh, acceptability. Our goods can get better acceptability in that part of the world as well. So this is how we can trade and generate some revenues as well. Prevent carbon leakages. So our rules and regulations should be that take and gradual, that the carbon pricing prevent industries from relocating to neighboring countries without carbon costs. So if our region will be operating similarly, for example, if our industry is going from Pakistan to Bangladesh, but if you see that Bangladesh has adopted same rules, so then we can, it will be more, you can say, industry have to decide very carefully, then is it really beneficial for them to move from here to there. So if we have a regional approach, it will be having multiple kind of benefits, and our region become more more cleaner or more decarbonized, and it can be systematically reduced our emission, in relatively uh, less period, because this market has already emerged and have shared their benefits in different regions of the world. So pooling sources for MRV system, registry platform, capacity building reduces cost of all participants. So yeah, in one, the bottleneck for our region is we don't have capacity in different countries, because our industry didn't have that kind of awareness, because uh, so if industry have to do inviting people from abroad, and it has their own cost, and so it is not competitive for their goods, and they don't have that kind of uh, funds available, or they don't have that awareness with them. So our ecosystem of awareness of capacity of the people in that particular country should be there. A regional ETS should be there, and a country should develop connect your own region registry with the regional industry, regional registry. So this is how, if our country, if our industry in Sri Lanka, they have they want to buy some credits, so they will buy some cheaper price credit from other country in the region. So, and similarly, if a country has a surplus, or if a industry has a surplus credit, so they can sell in all regions. So uh, it it will add to liquidity of. It will be more easier. It will, the price will be more stable, and the confidence will be there among the market. So, by building and developing those rules and regulations, So it will also enhance the international standing, our negotiation positioning, because what our governments do in negotiation in COP, that if something is difficult for them for to transition, and they have already did this, but they cannot able to do more than that. So what they do is they negotiate in international arena, and they can get finance, and even more kind of climate finance can help your industry to decarbonize and enable, or even if we go by region, so a collective approach, a collective voice would be more heard in any form. So enabling cross border energy trading will be more helpful. It will harmonize the price and facilitate regional electricity market and renewable energy exchanges. So we know that a lot of population is away from living without grid, uh, and the energy cost is also increasing out with the passing time. So some developing this kind of market, we can trade, uh, and our population uh, living standards will also increase, but in a decarbonized manner, in a more sustainable manner. So these are few benefits, regional benefits. So how can we adapt to this kind of situation? So as I mentioned before, to, there should be some near-term goals, and then from medium-term goals to be there. So knowledge sharing platform on ETS designing, joint capacity building workshops, harmonize MRV standards and methodologies, pilot projects in specific sectors, SAARC working group on carbon market. So this is our proposal for on this platform. So to develop a regional uh, ETS, we have multiple benefits, and some countries have a different kind of experiences, so they can share, and we can develop a joint methodologies for and bilateral linking agreements, sharing registry. So uh, mutual recognition of emission credit, a joint approach under the Paris Agreement, regional carbon price floor agreement, and in the long term, we have a fully integrated regional ETS covering major emitters across South Asia, similar to EU model, but adapted to regional context, because our region have our own intricacies, so we have to develop uh, um, ETS which is more adaptable here. So incrementally, knowledge sharing is then the full integration of the carbon market. So some initiative in South Asia region are already there. There's a PAT scheme platform, achieve and create scheme in India. Renewable energy certificate market operationalized in India. Considering regional ETS for power and industry, Gujarat pilot project is very ETS for particulate matter. It's quite popular. Gujarat pilot project is a strong MRV capability already developed. In Pakistan, exploring ETS as part of climate policy framework, strong interest in carbon market mechanism. CPEC for China-Pakistan economic corridor, it provides opportunity for regional linkages, building strong MRV capacity for NDC implementation, and potential for sector-specific projects, for example, cement, power. For Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, developing baseline carbon accounting system, uh, interested in voluntary carbon market. market strong potential for renewable energy, because if these countries are already trading in the voluntary carbon market, but they can, by developing some mechanism, establishing uh, registries, so they can also participate in the compliance market. Role of international organization. So these are some multilateral organizations. They are already operating. For example, World Bank, they are helping uh, through partnership for market readiness to different regional countries. UNEP Copenhagen Climate Center, they have Pakistan for the carbon market readiness project under SPARC 6C. So they are also helping GIZ, a German organization. They are also helping US aid, but and other few uh, multi-donor agencies they are operating. EU technical cooperation is there. Uh, International carbon auction partnerships there, so they are helping and they are facilitating countries to establish their MRV system for to establish the carbon registry. So why it is important? Why we should have to do it? Because our you recently make a new instrument that is called carbon border adjustment mechanism. So what is that mechanism? That mechanism is a bit different from EU ETS. EU ETS for themselves, for the countries in EU region, but this CBAM is a policy tool to put fair price on carbon emitted during production, carbon intensive goods entering to EU. That means if cement is produced in a country, so they check what are the embedded emissions, what are in the emission which took place from bringing it from the raw material from certain region to the factory. Then what are the emissions in the in grinding and then calcination process and transportation after that. So they verify this, they check all the embedded emission in the formation of that good, and their purpose is to prevent carbon leakages. Companies move any company which export to EU, so they have to give a certificate for that under some, they have also faced approach for that. So they have faced started from now, from 2026, it will be having, I think, 3% of you must have 3% certificate of those emissions in that particular good, and it will be increasing over the period of time. And by 2034, you will have to have a certificate of 100% of that good emission. So to export it to EU. So if they have for that, they have some free allocation. That means that they have some free allocation for that particular good. If beyond that, if you are not meeting the target of that particular year, so you have to pay the carbon price. So that per ton carbon price, which I already mentioned, is uh, around uh, 82 tons, 82 euros per ton of CO2 equivalent. So, so it will create a level playing field in EU producer, because EU has already adopted it. So, I mean, if other countries who don't have mechanism in their own countries, so they will definitely get preference in their good price will be cheaper. So EU has created the instrument because they want to make it competitive for their own industries as well. So anyone who is exporting them, they have to be on equal footing. So European cleaner production globally, it will help. The purpose is to encourage the cleaner production globally, and it will support the climate neutrality of EU, which they have announced that they will be going to 2050. They are going to be net zero. So importer must purchase CBAM certificate. As I mentioned before, certificate price reflects the carbon price in EU ETS. So as I said, if the under the EU ETS, the 1 ton of CO2 equivalent price is 82 euros per ton, so they have to pay the extra emission with this rate. So based on uh, embedded emission in the imported goods, so credit embedded emission I have already explained. If um, what are the whole chain of emission uh, emission erupted during the dictation of that particular gate in the final phase. So credit given to carbon prices already paid abroad. So if we establish, this is quite important. For example, if a country already have developed their own ETS and good they are exporting to EU and they have paid the extra uh, uh, fines in their own country, so they don't have to pay it in EU. So so that so your national government can use that revenue for different things in your own country instead of you are paying it in EU region. CBAM coverage and timeline. So this is our transition. As I said, initially they have covered these 6 industries, which include iron and steel, cement, aluminum, fertilizer, electricity, and hydrogen. And the transitioning phase began in 2023, and in 2026 it will be implemented. Financial obligation begins, and in 2034 it will be fully functional. You can say you have to get certificate 100% emission certificate for that particular good under this if you are exporting it to EU. So, impact on South Asian exporter to EU. We all know that our region is exporting, and our best market, one of the best markets, is EU for certain things. India is exporting steel, aluminum, cement. In EU, of billions of dollar worth. Steel, cement export is also, Pakistan is also exporting fertilizer to, and cement in the EU. Bangladesh is also exporting textile cement. So our key challenges are higher carbon intensity, increase the cost burden. If the intensity of carbon is more in that and it is more than the cap limit of that particular year, so we have to pay the cost burden. We will pay the cost burden in EU if we don't have established the ETS mechanism in our own country, and if we have in our own country, then we will pay in our own country and then uh, sell the product in the EU region. So it will make it um, uncompetitive or maybe competitive. So in the EU market. So MRV capacity building for verified data, compliance cost for SMEs challenging. These are the key challenging because SMEs we don't have in our region getting data from these SMEs. Their production line is quite difficult. So these are the main challenging in how to regularize them under the ETS. So competitive disadvantage versus carbon pricing countries, limited time to adopt the production. If uh, through this mechanism, if our region take the advantage of adopting it as soon as possible, so then we have a first mover advantage, and we have better acceptability of our goods in the EU market. Strategic response to CBAM, how we can, instead of negotiating other things, what we should do practically, how we can meet this challenge by. So the first and foremost thing is establish our own MRV system, which is, you can see, the backbone of any ETS. So we have to train our editors, we have to build our capacity, we have to build some verification bodies, align it with the EU methodologies. Carbon production process, decarbonize the production process, invest in energy efficiency, as I mentioned before, renewable energy, cleaner technologies, lower emission to reduce the CBAM cost and improve the competitiveness. So I hope this is quite clear. Implement the domestic carbon pricing. National ETS on carbon tax allowance credit against CBAM obligation keep revenue domestic rather than paying in EU. So if we have our established MRV system, ETS, and for ETS, and we have a functional registry here, so we can pay those allowances here, pay those fines here, and then sell our products in the EU without paying any extra allowance there. So support export industries, provide technical assistance. Few industries are already adopting this, and they are complying the CBAM, under the CBAM. So they will definitely get some first mover advantage. So regional cooperation will even be more helpful. Joint advocacy, joint implementation, and detailed knowledge can be more beneficial for this. So if we have, because CBAM is already here, from next, we are in December 2025, so from next year it will be functional. So it can be a catalyst. CBAM, it can be a catalyst to develop the regional ETS, or ETS first to develop in their own country and then make a joint effort to establish a regional ETS. It can help generating the revenues by exporting to EU region. With the EU ETS and the carbon tax, exporter get credit for domestic cost. Revenue stays national for the green investment. And additional advantages are level playing field between exporter and non-exporter, drives economy-wide decarbonization, create carbon market expertise for CBAM compliance, positions country for CBAM extension, attract green finance, and MRV serves both domestic and CBAM. So, as I mentioned before, CBAM is the strong economic incentive for the domestic, for creating the domestic carbon market and carbon price. EU ETS carbon prices and CBAM. So the per ton cost under, if industry is not complying, so the per ton cost it has to pay is the same which is there in the EU ETS, because their industries under their EU ETS, they are following the same rules. So to make the other industries competitive to their industries, so they have created this map. And This is even phase. If we see historically, the price is of the each credit is rising. For example, it was around $8, €8 in 2013, and then it is growing, and now it is €82 per ton of CO2 equivalent. So the projected price will be even more. So it will reach, I think, 140 euros in future. So it is, I think, a wise. It will be wise decision to establish our own ETS in nationally and then regionally to work or to export competitively in future under the CBAM. So key takeaways are higher EU prices mean higher CBAM cost. Domestic carbon pricing offset charges. Price difference incentivize decarbonization. Essential to monitor EU ETS for export plan. Yeah, so if some exporters have to exporting, so they have to keep an eye on EU ETS as well for its functioning, and they have help their own government as well. If the, the facts, actual data with them to avoid the greenwashing. Yeah, so this is time for action for our region, for both nationally and regionally for our region, so that we can develop our own emission trading scheme for South Asia to as a proven path to reduce our emission and support the economic growth for the energy security. So, which is also cost competitive. It will be market driven. It will be regionally coordinated. So, it is the best time, I would say, which our nation has not already developed. So, we should develop our own registries in nationally so that we can comply the international standards and export uh, to EU region. Thank you so much. Uh, if you have some question, I'll be happy to answer them. And
Thank you so much, sir, for such an elaborate presentation. Gave us the holistic view from EU to South Asian region. So now the session is open for question and answer. We have some questions in the chat box. So, Shinli, can you put your question from your side? We will unmute the mic.
yeah, I hope Shanli have already answered question in the chat box.
Yes, yes. So Mr. Amjad, you can go to the chat box.
Sir, little up. Yeah, down. Come down, sir. Come down.
Okay.
More down. Here.
Can we address the severe smog in our cities without mechanism for clean energy transition? So this question is, I mean, energy is one component of uh, the smog, I would say. So there are not just it is not just energy. So there are emissions from which comes from the agricultural land use and forestry. There are emissions from the waste sector. So and there are emissions from the industrial processes as well. So you can say energy is the one component for the smog or for the bad air quality. So that's why we say if we, and even if those emissions in the sunlight, they react in the atmosphere, and they chemically, and then they generate more emission on that side. So I think that is energy transition is the one way of handling the smoke. The complete technique is to to cover all the sector to avoid emission. Definitely, by energy transition, it will reduce, but to completely phase out or phase down it drastically, we have to consider all the sectors. So the next question is: are we willing to let our exporters pay millions in carbon levies directly to the European Union, or should we implement domestic ETS to capture that revenue? So yeah, this is the message from the presentation as well. So to make them ready, we have to create our own ETS. Otherwise, if we don't, either we will not export to EU, or uh, we will consume our goods locally, or we have to pay the extra along, pay the fine if we didn't decarbonize that. How can we finance the massive capital required for the clean transition? So yes, this is another takeaway from this presentation, that our public money is not enough to meet the carbon goal. How we can do it? To mobilize the private finance. So private finance come through this kind of market. So this is practically happening in EU ETS. What they are doing, the companies are purchasing credits, they are selling credits, so they are generating revenues. So if we develop this kind of instrument, so policies, so this will help mobilizing the private finance. So public money, we don't have public money. None of the country in this region have enough public money so that they can meet the carbon goal. The only way is we should mobilize the private finance to meet the carbon. So this will happen through by establish emission trading scheme and the relevant rules and regulation. So what next, dear participant, please?
Yes, we have next question from Mr. Janak. He has put the question that how the political tension will affect on carbon pricing and trading.
So, sorry, should we focus in developing reactive approach following products including CBAM?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so no, I think we should be ready before CBAM, and it is even helpful for us own self as well. So to keep ourselves ready and establish uh, uh, to make our environment clean, to save the emission which we have already. Uh, so if we establish our own ETS, it will help our own industry to buy and sell from each other as well. So this will mobilize the finance to achieve the carbon goal as well. So, for example, in the China ETS, so they are helping their own industries to buy and sell domestically. So it also helps to meet their carbon goal, their NDC goal of reducing emission, and it is also improving the air quality. So we have all seen how China has achieved this goal through establishing their own and making their environment clean. How to synergize considering both criteria, air pollutants and greenhouse gas emission to ETS? Yeah, because gradually, as we are including, initially we can include 3 gases, for example, methane, nitrous oxide, and carbon dioxide. Then including more, for example, fluorinated gases and other gases and uh, other pollutants, for example, PM 2.5 and other, uh, because we don't call them greenhouse gases, but they are kind of short-lived climate pollutants. So they can be included as well, but I mean, for that we have to develop our own methodologies and others. But you see, I think uh, around 80% of those particulate matter and other they they erupt from these industries which are coming, which we have discussed, which are fossil intensive. So if we make them green, so these pollutants will reduce automatically as well. The last question is, do geopolitical tension affect on carbon pricing and trading? Yes, it definitely affects. It definitely affects the liquidity. It definitely, for example, the best example in our region is if India and Pakistan don't cooperate on this, so our we cannot send our product to India, and we cannot sell, purchase the products, purchase the credits, maybe cheaper credits generated in India, and vice versa. So it definitely affect the carbon pricing. So bigger the market, uh, it will be more acceptable. Your things will be more tradable, and you can get market based. Uh, in You can buy things which are more cheaper, and in the form of ETS, we can say we can buy cheap credits to meet the company's requirements. And the bigger the market, though it is difficult uh, to handle, but as EU is handling 27 and even more countries, so in our region have even less countries. So the bigger market and avoiding geopolitical tension will be helpful to meet the carbon goal, to establish the ETS system in our own country. I'll be happy to answer more questions if you have.
Yes, we have Madhav sir from Nepal Electricity Authority. He has a question, I think. Please, sir.
And one thing, if Shanley, are you there? If you please, if you want to say something more other than the presentation, please do so. I know it's quite early for you, but please help us learning more if you are available.
Madhav sir, you are unmuted. Please unmute yourself.
That's great. I think there is some problem with mic. Or you can put your question in the chat box. You can also do
That's one. Okay.
that. Okay.
No. My name is Tanjin. I'm working in SAARC Energy Center. So thank you very much for your comprehensive presentation on the emission trading scheme. So my concern is that presently, as such, there is no carbon market in SAARC region. And from your presentation, we came to know that each country should be pursuing to set up their own carbon market. So, for immediate plan, is there any market in the carbon market in the Asia Pacific region where especially the SAARC member countries can avail the carbon market? So you can
Yeah,
highlight on this.
yeah. So thank you so much for the question. Compliance market is relatively tricky than the voluntary carbon market. I also explained in the presentation as well. So in the voluntary carbon market, you don't have to subtract the credits from your inventory, and other buyer countries show the credits in their own emissions. They show it in their own savings. So what happened in the compliance market, which is part of the ETS? So if you are selling your extra or surplus credits, so that means you cannot count in your NDC target that you have achieved this target. So the buyer country will show it in their credit, in their savings, and they will reduce that amount of emission which they have purchased from this country. So what it will happen is, and it will happen over continuous time, and there is a possibility that the country who is selling it can mean it can not achieve its carbon goal, its climate goal, or its emission reduction goal for that particular year. Since in our region we didn't have studied it, we are behind the EU region and other developed region, and we not even established our own ETS. We have not historically studied even these sectors. So this only we have only examples of selling those credits in the voluntary carbon market, but nothing in the compliance market. Every country in our region, they are establishing nowadays this system because you need rules and regulation. If it is under check and balance, the government have to set a cap on particular sectors. So this not have been done already. So countries are even being more careful, or they don't have capacity in their countries. So India has done, for example, few schemes for where they are trading, but under compliance market, it is emerging. Pakistan has developed uh, uh, carbon market guidelines. Now they are developing rules for compliance market, where compliance market is like it will be relatively easier, but it may be from bilateral mechanism, government to government, and they can sell those credits to different governments, different countries. So which will come under the ITMOS in the UNFCCC registry as well. So other than EU ETS, and we don't have there is no example in my knowledge that is available, but there are examples in the voluntary carbon market in the region. The best example is the EU ETS, but they are not buying credits from regions other than EU. So we have to establish our own ETS, just like China did it. So I hope I have answered the question.
Sir, there is one last question. We'll check in the chat box from Sayyid Nasr.
What about capacity building? What approach we should adopt? Yeah, the best approach is for the CBAM, as I mentioned. If we want to,
Yes,
if industry,
yes, Mr. Amjad, I would just like to add some points on that so that you can completely answer the question. So inside the region, we have different level of capacity to enter into the market. It is to be costly in documentation process. So in case of ETS, it's due to the hustle of the project development. Developers don't opt for it. So how can we make it more charming so that all of our sub-Asian countries can benefit from this scheme?
sorry, you was not clear to me. Could you please repeat your question, please? And please be closer to mic if possible.
Okay, so it was related to the last question. So I just wanted to elaborate a little more. So inside the region, we have different level of capacities to enter into the market. It used to be costly in documentation process to enter into the market. So because of this hustle in the development of the project, developers don't opt for it. How can we make it more charming so that South Asian countries can benefit from this scheme?
So, Shanley, if you are there, could you please?
Yes,
Sorry, it was not properly audible to me right now, so I don't know. Shanley, are you there to answer? If you have listened the question. I can see you have written something in the chat box, but
I think that. No, no, it's good.
it's
Yes.
yeah. If I understood properly, so let me answer. So that means there are capacity building mean that there are already few methodologies, for example, which are available for trading. How we calculate the credits. So there are methodologies include some Vera methodologies. There are some gold GCC methodologies. So by adopting those methodology, and we can calculate uh, the allowance or emission credits over historically, and as well as the in the future projection as well, using those methodologies. And we can if we have more capacity in our region, uh, uh, and these capacities come through cooperation. If we want to, for example, comply with the CBAM, so this is a one way of creating capacity in your region. So I mean, if we will do it, we will be complying, and we will be creating capacity for ourselves. The second way is governments can support. I mean, they can hire few people, and they can build the capacity for different industries. And even in some industry consortium can reach some, for example, joint webinar and doing dedicate few manpower for them to increase the capacity, and it will and they can even get benefit for their industry as well as the other industries in your country, and it will reduce the cost if you have manpower in your own country, in your own industry, so it will definitely reduce the cost of the project. I hope I have answered the question, Ms. Karen.
Okay. Thank you so much for taking all the questions. So now we have come to an end.
So there is one slide I have also presented on the multilateral agencies, which they are actually helping different countries in
Okay.
developing the capacities. For example, World Bank, GIZ, UNEP, Copenhagen Climate Center. So they are already doing it in different regions, so they can help building the capacity and actually identify the markets, connect to the relevant persons, and yeah. So because in European Union they are already doing it, so thank you. I hope I have answered.
Okay, so you have your colleague from Copenhagen. Is he online? Would she like to add some points?
Oh, she's saying in the chat box that she couldn't unmute herself.
Oh, okay, that's fine. So now we would like to conclude today's webinar. Thank you everyone for attending today's session. We have listened to an excellent presentation delivered by our distinguished presenter. His presentation will be available on SAARC Energy Center's website very shortly. We would welcome any suggestions, comments from you for further improvement, plus any suggested topics of your interest on which you want us to arrange future webinars. This was the last webinar of this fiscal year. We have come to an end of the December. So it's 10th now. From January, we'll have all the sessions. Do join us. We'll be happy to have you there, either in terms of expert or participant. So please do visit our website, www.saarcenergy.org. Thank you once again. Thank you, Mr. Amjad, and all the participants to be here with us for more than 1.5 hours. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. I have included my email in the last slide. So if you still have some question, I'll be happy to answer. Please reach out.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.